There is a kind of strength that does not roar. It trembles, it fears, it breaks, but still stands. In Daring Greatly, Brené Brown reminds us that vulnerability is not weakness. It is courage in its purest form. The willingness to be seen, even when imperfect, is the foundation of connection. The world teaches us to hide, but the soul longs to be witnessed as it truly is. Brown begins with a truth we often resist. The fear of shame rules most of our decisions. We avoid risks not because we lack ambition, but because we fear exposure. We fear rejection. Yet every great act of love, creativity, and leadership begins with the same risk: the risk of being vulnerable. To dare greatly is to live without armor, to show up as you are, knowing you might fall and still choosing to try. She draws inspiration from Theodore Roosevelt's famous words: "It is not the critic who counts, but the one who is actually in the arena." Life rewards those in the arena, dusty, imperfect, and courageous. The ones who dare to be seen, even when trembling, are the ones who change the world. Perfection never moved hearts. Authenticity always does. Vulnerability, Brown teaches, is not confessing everything or exposing all emotions. It is choosing honesty over image. It is showing up where there are no guarantees. When you hide behind perfection, you gain safety, but lose intimacy. When you allow yourself to be real, you risk pain, but find meaning. Vulnerability is the birthplace of love, belonging, creativity, and joy. We wear emotional armor to protect ourselves from shame. We hide behind sarcasm, success, or silence. But armor is heavy, and over time it suffocates the very parts of us that crave connection. True courage begins when you start taking off that armor, one layer at a time. You will feel naked, exposed, but also light. The cost of invulnerability is isolation. Brown's research reveals that people who live wholeheartedly share one trait. They believe they are worthy of love, even when imperfect. Worthiness is not earned. It is remembered. Every time you choose authenticity over approval, you reclaim a piece of your soul. Self-respect begins when you stop auditioning for acceptance and start living in truth. You realize that connection grows only where masks fall. Shame, according to Brown, is the fear of disconnection. It whispers, "You are not enough." It convinces you to stay small and quiet, but shame survives only in silence. The moment you name it, it loses power. Healing begins when you speak your truth out loud, not to impress, but to be honest. The soul cannot heal from what it hides. Courage and vulnerability are inseparable. You cannot be brave without first being exposed. Every act of creation, confession, or love involves uncertainty. Yet it is within this uncertainty that life expands. Those who dare to feel deeply risk heartbreak, but also experience the kind of joy that closed hearts will never know. To live fully is to accept the beauty of being breakable. Brown explains that perfectionism is not the pursuit of excellence, but the fear of failure dressed as discipline. Perfectionism says, if I look perfect, I can avoid shame. But life doesn't reward the flawless. It rewards the authentic. Progress, not perfection, builds self-respect. Every mistake embraced is an act of courage. Every imperfection accepted becomes a doorway to freedom. Wholehearted living, she says, is about engaging the world from a place of worthiness. It's the understanding that your value doesn't decrease when you fail or fall. You learn to replace the question, "What will people think?" with "What is true for me?" This shift changes everything. The moment you stop performing for approval, you begin to live for purpose. The heart of daring greatly is love. Not the romantic kind, but the fierce love that begins within. The kind that says, "I am enough." It's the love that stays when success fades, when relationships end, when the crowd turns silent. Self-compassion, Brown says, is not indulgence. It's survival. You cannot offer others what you refuse to give yourself. One of the most powerful ideas in the book is that connection requires boundaries. Vulnerability does not mean letting everyone in. It means choosing who deserves access to your soul. When you set limits with kindness, you protect your energy without closing your heart. This balance, open yet grounded, is the essence of true strength. We often mistake numbness for peace. But numbing pain also numbs joy. When you close yourself off from discomfort, you also shut out wonder. Brown invites us to feel everything: the grief, the fear, the awe, because to feel deeply is to be alive. The heart that dares to break is also the heart capable of immense beauty. The courage to be vulnerable transforms relationships. When you speak your truth calmly and openly, others feel safe to do the same. Vulnerability is contagious. It invites authenticity in return. Respect grows naturally where honesty lives. You no longer manipulate connection. You cultivate it through presence, listening, and empathy. Brown writes that leadership rooted in vulnerability is not weakness, but influence. People follow those who are real, not those who pretend to be invincible. When a leader admits mistakes and still moves forward, they inspire trust. Transparency breeds respect. Authority without humility is domination. Leadership with vulnerability is transformation. Shame cannot survive empathy. When you hold space for another's pain without judgment, you dissolve their isolation. This act of compassion heals both giver and receiver. Vulnerability connects us through shared humanity. Beneath titles, masks, and achievements, we are all the same, longing to be seen and loved as we are. Living vulnerably is not about exposure, it's about expansion. You begin to see that your worth was never tied to outcomes. Whether you win or fail, the act of showing up matters most. The bravest souls are not those who never fall, but those who rise again with an open heart. Scars are proof that you tried, not that you lost. Brown reminds us that courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward despite it. Every time you speak truthfully, say no with grace, or love without guarantees, you are daring greatly. Vulnerability is the price of real freedom. The freedom to be fully, unapologetically alive. To embrace vulnerability is to reclaim your humanity. You stop pretending to have it all figured out. You start laughing at your own flaws, crying without shame, and showing gratitude without fear of rejection. The more you allow yourself to feel, the more life begins to feel you. The heart that dares to open becomes unstoppable. Brown teaches that gratitude turns vulnerability into strength. When you appreciate the present moment, fear loses its grip. You no longer seek validation in the future or dwell on the past. Gratitude anchors you in the now, where peace lives. The courageous are not fearless. They are grateful. They see beauty even in uncertainty. Daring greatly also means daring to rest. In a culture that glorifies exhaustion, choosing to slow down is revolutionary. You realize that worth is not measured by productivity, but by presence. The most courageous thing you can do is to stop proving and start being. Stillness becomes a radical act of self-respect. In every chapter, Brown reminds us that love and belonging are not goals, but truths we uncover. You don't need to earn connection. You need to remove what blocks it: shame, fear, and perfectionism. Once they fall away, you discover that you were never broken. just buried under armor. The heart beneath is still pure. The essence of this book is an invitation to step into the arena of life, scars and all. To let yourself be seen not despite your imperfections, but because of them. Vulnerability doesn't make you smaller. It makes you real. And reality, when embraced, becomes radiant. You stop performing and start living. Brown's message is clear. To live fully, you must risk being fully seen. You must speak truth when silence feels safer, and love when withdrawal feels easier. The world doesn't need perfect people, it needs present ones. Those who dare greatly become mirrors for others, showing that authenticity is the highest form of strength. To dare greatly is to respect yourself enough to be real. To stand in your truth when others demand masks. To live from the heart, not from fear. In the end, courage is not found in grand gestures, but in small acts of honesty repeated daily. When you live this way, you don't just exist, you expand.